At my son's wedding, he banned me from attending but sent me an $80,000 bill to pay for the party. I just smiled and returned the invitation, turning his dream into a nightmare. The envelope was thick, embossed with gold lettering. It wasn't an invitation to my son's wedding, not in the traditional sense. It was a statement. A list of costs meticulously itemized: venue rental, catering, floral arrangements, a live band. The grand total at the bottom was a staggering $80,000. Tucked inside was a smaller, starker card. It read, "Dad, we've decided it's best you don't attend. Your presence might make things awkward with Monica's family. We'll send pictures. Please remit payment by next Friday. Love, Daniel and Monica." There was no shaking, no trembling. Just a quiet, numb disbelief. This wasn't the first time Daniel had shown his true colors, but this was the most brazen. He and Monica, his ambitious fiancée, had always seen me as a relic of a bygone era. My work boots, my simple home, my practical values, all of it was a source of embarrassment for them. My life had been a series of sacrifices for Daniel. I'd worked 16-hour days to put him through college, a fancy private university that he had insisted on. I'd paid for his first car, a down payment on his condo, and countless business startup loans that disappeared into thin air. I had always hoped my love and support would be reciprocated with respect. Instead, it was met with condescension and greed. The letter was the final insult. They wanted my money, but not my presence. My hard-earned savings were good enough for their lavish party, but I was not. The shame they felt for my working-class roots was more important than having the man who raised Daniel there on his wedding day. A wave of sorrow, cold and deep, washed over me. I thought of the countless hours I'd spent with Daniel, teaching him how to throw a baseball, how to change a tire, how to be a man of integrity. All those lessons, it seemed, had been forgotten. But the sorrow didn't last. It was replaced by something else, a cold, hard clarity. This wasn't about a son being embarrassed by his father. This was about a son and his fiancée attempting to extort a small fortune from a man they believed to be a simple-minded fool. They thought they had me cornered. They believed I would be so devastated by the rejection that I would simply pay the bill in a desperate attempt to show my love, to be a part of their lives, no matter how small. I looked at the invoice again, then at the small, dismissive note. A slow, serene smile spread across my face. They had made a grave miscalculation. They had forgotten that the same man who built houses with his own two hands had also built a successful business empire from the ground up. I knew how to read contracts, how to navigate legal loopholes, how to turn a bad deal into a winning hand. I was old, yes, but I wasn't naive. I picked up the phone and dialed the number of my lawyer, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Evelyn. "Evelyn," I said, my voice calm and steady. "I have a new project for you. It's a wedding, and I believe it's time to teach my son a very expensive lesson." I told her about the $80,000 bill and the accompanying letter. I could hear the sharp intake of her breath. "They've made a colossal mistake," she said, a hint of admiration in her voice. "What did you have in mind?" Then I placed it back in the envelope along with the detailed bill and mailed it back to my son. The game, I knew, had just begun. My calm exterior was a perfect shield. To the outside world, and especially to Daniel and Monica, I was the heartbroken father, a tragic figure to be pitied and, most importantly, milked for cash. They believed they held all the cards. Their arrogance was a direct result of my years of patience, my willingness to always give them the benefit of the doubt. They saw my kindness as weakness, my quiet nature as a sign of intellectual deficiency. They had no idea that I was busy constructing their downfall, brick by careful brick. The days that followed were a testament to their audacious greed. They called not to apologize but to confirm my payment. "Dad, we need to send the final payment to the caterer," Daniel said, his voice laced with impatience. "Did you send the check yet?" "I'm still thinking about it. You know, these things take time." I could hear the frustration in his tone, a small crack in their polished facade. They thought my hesitation was a sign of my age and confusion. They had no idea it was a calculated delay. My plan was a two-pronged attack, a masterpiece of financial and legal manipulation. The first part involved the family trust. For years, I had maintained a trust for Daniel's benefit, a significant sum of money he was set to inherit upon my death. With Evelyn's help, I had the trust's stipulations changed. The funds were now to be used for a charitable foundation in my late wife's name, dedicated to providing scholarships for tradespeople. It was a final, loving tribute to the woman who had helped me build my life, and a devastating blow to the son who had tried to tear it down. The paperwork was signed, sealed, and filed with the court, a silent bomb ticking beneath their feet. The second part of the plan was a public relations masterpiece. I had a small but loyal circle of friends in the community. I spoke to them not with anger but with a quiet, sorrowful dignity. I told them about the bill, about being banned from the wedding, about the years of financial exploitation. I had them read the note from Daniel and Monica. The whispers began. The local news, a small-town paper that I had been a patron of for years, caught wind of the story. The editor, a man I had helped out with a small loan years ago, was eager to help. He ran a sympathetic piece about a hardworking father being betrayed by his ungrateful son. The headline was a masterpiece of subtle irony. Local philanthropist creates foundation in wife's honor, all while being banned from son's wedding. We're hearing things. The caterer said he hasn't been paid. He said he's going to back out. I would listen calmly, a faint, cruel smile on my face. "Oh, that's a shame, dear," I would say. "I hope you two can sort it out." Their dream wedding, a masterpiece of extravagance built on a foundation of my money, was beginning to crumble. Daniel and Monica were a ship taking on water, and they had no idea who was drilling the holes. The climax of my plan was a carefully crafted response to their $80,000 bill. I didn't send a check. Instead, I sent them a letter from Evelyn, my lawyer, detailing my legal rights as a patron of the arts, and a request for a detailed list of all expenses incurred. The letter concluded with a simple sentence: "I will consider paying for the wedding as a donation to a charity of my choosing, but as I am not an attendee, any personal charges will not be considered." The world they had built was about to collapse, and they were still too blind to see it. The phone call came in the middle of the night. It wasn't the frantic, demanding tone I had grown accustomed to. It was a scream, a primal shriek of pure, unadulterated panic. "Dad, we're ruined. The wedding is off. The vendors are suing us." It was Monica. Her voice was a symphony of chaos, a soundtrack to her own unraveling. I picked up the phone. "Hello, Monica," I said, my voice a calm, steady anchor in her storm. "How could you do this?" she sobbed. "You were supposed to pay. We have a signed contract. The caterer said he's going to take us to court." Then I heard Daniel on the other end, his voice tight with rage. "You did this. You let everyone in town know. You're just a bitter old man who wants to ruin my life." "You did. You chose to value money over family. You chose to humiliate me publicly, and I simply chose to live my life with dignity. I returned your invitation, remember? It came with a message." What was the message?" "You used to say it all the time. You reap what you sow." I just wanted to remind you of that. The news of the canceled wedding and the lawsuit spread like wildfire. The town, which had sided with me from the beginning, now openly condemned them. Monica's social standing, the very thing she had built her life around, evaporated overnight. Her parents, embarrassed by the scandal, disowned her. Daniel's business, which was already on shaky ground, lost all its clients. No one wanted to do business with a man who would treat his own father with such contempt. The final blow came in the form of a legal document, a copy of my new will and trust. They found out about the foundation, the scholarships, the total absence of their names from my estate. The inheritance, the very thing they had spent their lives scheming for, was gone, replaced by a legacy of compassion and kindness. The irony was devastating. The very thing they had tried to steal from me, my money, was now being used to help others, a testament to the values they so deeply disdained. I was no longer the heartbroken old man. I was a free man, a man at peace. I was surrounded by friends who truly cared, and I had the profound satisfaction of knowing that my life's work would now go to a worthy cause. Daniel and Monica were left with nothing. Their grand, extravagant dream had become their worst nightmare. They had tried to ban me from their wedding, but, in the end, it was I who had banned them from my life. The invitation, once a symbol of their triumph, had become the instrument of their final poetic downfall. They had chosen to build a life on greed and disrespect, and for that, they got what they deserved. And for me, that was all the wedding I needed.